Hi, this is Van Hall of Paula Designs. I'd like to talk a bit about version 3 of my data deduplication routines for Airtable. These routines are written using standard Airtable functionality. They can be used with free and plus accounts, and there is optional support for some pro features if desired. They do not require the use of a third-party SaaS integration service such as Zapier or Integromat. The routines contain three modules, so to speak, discrete sections of rule sets. First is duplicate identification, which provides core dedupe functionality. Persistent suppression of false positives, that is, of apparent duplicates that, upon inspection, prove not to be duplicates after all. Persistent suppression means that false positives that are flagged as such during a deduplicating run through the base do not reappear during subsequent passes. And merging of true duplicates. Finally, the routines support real-time or ongoing deduplication, that is, they can help determine if the data record just entered is a potential duplicate without the entire table needing to be processed. There's a 32-page user's guide documenting the routines. This video is meant to accompany that guide, not to replace it. The guide provides detailed explanations of the routines, including annotated code for all of the formula, lookup, and rollup fields involved. There are 3 demonstration and sizing bases provided, with the bases identical except for size. There's a 14 record, a 1,000 record, and a 10,000 record base. The 1,000 and 10,000 record bases are provided so prospective users may get a feel for how the routines will function in their own environments. The document can be found at pauladesigns.com/airtable/dedupe.pdf. This will always be the most up-to-date version of the document. The first module of the deduplication routines is duplicate detection. These rule sets provide core functionality. Any base making use of the deduplication routines would, by necessity, incorporate duplicate detection. To this, some bases will add support for false positives, which, as we'll later see, consist of several submodules of increasing functionality. Finally, some bases may include support for the merging of true duplicates. However, it all starts with duplicate detection. Throughout this video and the user's guide, you will see references to key or match key. This is a value, often a calculated value, that most uniquely identifies each record in the table. As a result, it is extremely application and business process dependent. For example, in the demo bases, the record I'm deduplicating contains various data about an individual: name, address, employer, and the like. It's the sort of record one might find in a membership or subscriber list, a prospect or customer relationship manager, or something similar. As part of the data, it defines a customer name as first name, middle initial, last name. Match key, on the other hand, is built upon first name and last name concatenated together, based upon the assumption that middle initials are often missing or incorrect, and one would not want to risk a false negative, that is, duplicate records the base does not recognize as duplicate, thanks to a missing or erroneous middle initial. There are a number of other concerns that go into crafting the optimal match key, and the user's guide contains an entire section on doing just that. Let's take a look at the general process flow for the first deduplication module, duplicate detection. As records are added to the main table, the key is rolled up to dedupe, and the number of instances of key in the concatenated string of keys is determined. As long as only a single instance is found, the key is considered unique. But if a record is added whose key is a match for one already in the base, then the system detects a second instance of the key and the system flags it as a dupe. Let's see how duplicate detection operates within Airtable. This is the 14 record example base, very lightly tweaked for this demonstration. I'm only showing those fields important to this stage. Most important, of course, is match key, which the routines use to determine if data have been stored redundantly. As you can see, here I'm using a match key that consists of first and last name concatenated together, without middle initial, and all uppercased. I use the vertical bar non-alpha character to bracket the key, so supermodel Carol Alt won't match journalist Carol Altman, and there are a number of other substitutions to eliminate common false discriminations, removing hyphens and spaces from compound names, for instance. And if we take a look in the dedupe table, where I've again hidden non-essential fields, we'll see the match string field, which is merely a concatenation of all the main table's match keys. So I've already added a few more records to the base. The next thing I want to do is make sure all my new records link to dedupe. This is essential. Duplicates and unlinked records will not be detected. I could link them manually, copy and paste a value into the link to dedupe field, but in this case I think I'll use the fill handle to copy the value. Now let's enter a duplicate name. I already have one copied to the clipboard, so I'll paste it here and bang, a dupe. What's happened is the match key for the new record has been added to dedupe match string. Now when main dupe question mark checks, it finds there's more than a single instance of match key Lindsay Kimball in the string, so it toggles dupe question mark. As you see, I use Airtable record coloring to flag those entries that are duplicates. That's pro-level functionality though, so I've also configured a field named period so I can make the column as narrow as possible that uses emoji to provide a similar visual cue for free and plus accounts. You won't see it in later videos as I hide it to save screen space, but it's there. Finally, I want to enter an almost matching name. There. As you see, it triggers the alert, because first and last names match, which is all match key cares about. But the middle initials don't match. And let's assume I've looked into things and discovered that this Carol Zarita and this Carol Zarita are indeed two different individuals. In that case, this does not indicate duplicate data, but is instead a false positive. The second deduplication module, as it were, is support for false positives. By false positive, I mean two records of identical match keys, but which are determined not to be duplicate records. An example of this might be two individuals with the same first and last names, but with different middle initials. When I use the term false positive, the assumption is that the potential duplicate identified by the system has been vetted by the user, and the records have been found not to represent an actual duplicate. Support for false positives can be broken down into three sections. I'll start with the fundamental code that simply supports the suppression of alarms when a possible dupe turns out to be a false positive. Here's the general process flow for suppression of alerts caused by false positives. Once again, we begin with records being added to the main table. When two records of the same match key are logged, the system flags them as a possible dupe. In this case, though, the user determines the records don't represent duplicate data, but are instead false positives. To indicate this and suppress the alert, he or she checks dupe OK. In the tagged record, match key is duplicated into dupe OK match, which is then rolled up to dupe OK matches in the dedupe table. When a record in the main table finds its match key in dupe OK matches, it enters its record ID into dupe OK rex, which is then rolled up into dupe OK rex. Finally, when a record finds its ID in dupe OK rex, it clears true dupe and thus the associated flags. The largest portion of the deduplication routines deals with the handling of false positives, and I'm going to break my discussion of this section into several segments. First is the suppression of alerts caused by false positives. For this video, I'm using the 1000 record example base. Here I have it filtered to show only those records where dupe question mark is equal to 1, and I've sorted the base by match key. For record coloring, I'm using the configuration suggested in the dedupe user's guide, where records flagged as true dupe are colored red, and those flagged as later dupe are amber. I'll talk about later dupe in the next segment. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm assuming any potential duplication flagged by the system where the middle initials do not match to be a false positive. I want to suppress alerts caused by false positives so I can focus on resolving actual duplications. So here we see the two Adam Dillon records have been flagged as potential dupes, but the individuals have different middle initials. I want to inform the system that this match is actually a false positive, and I do so by checking the box beside one of the entries, doesn't matter which, either will do, stating this seeming dupe is okay. And there, the alert is suppressed. Now what actually takes place backstage is a little complicated, but the process is covered in some detail in the user's guide. What you can see here, though, is that in the record I tagged as dupe OK match has been set to equal match key. In addition, for all records with that particular match key, the record ID has been entered into dupe OK rec, and true dupe has been cleared. Since my alerts are based upon true dupe, this last change causes them to be cleared as well. As you can see, for a base this size, there's very little lag between the time dupe OK is checked and alerts are suppressed. As I recall, there are about 1,100 records in this base, 132 of which are flagged as potential duplicates, involving 65 match keys. Now, Agnes F. Baker is not a false positive, but an actual duplicate, so I won't check dupe OK. I'll talk about handling of true duplicates a little later. Regardless of how many records are involved in the false positive, tagging any record clears alerts for all. Finally, it's quite possible to find a match key involved in both actual duplications and false positives. In such an instance, you don't want to select dupe OK, as that would suppress alerts on the actual dupes as well. Instead, first deal with the authentic duplicates through either merging, as I'll discuss shortly, or deleting redundant records. Once the true duplicates have been handled, you can suppress alerts on any false positives that remain. The process I've just described is fine for handling false positives identified during a single deduplication run. But what if I subsequently add records to the base? If I leave duplicate checked, I run the risk of suppressing alerts on duplicate records added later. But if I clear duplicate, all those false positives suddenly reappear. I've essentially thrown away all the work I just did in processing them. What I need is some way to track false positives persistently, that is, even after I clear duplicate, while still allowing newly discovered matches to alert. And that is what the next section is all about. I want to talk about persistent tracking of false positives in two parts. First, how to enable persistent tracking. As I mentioned earlier, records whose IDs are found in OKRex match have TrueDup cleared. An OKRex match is a formula field configured as the sum of dupOKRex concatenated with OKRex hold. Accordingly, when record IDs roll up into dupOKRex, they are combined with those in OKRex hold to create OKRex match. To enable persistent tracking of false positives, then, once the table has been vetted and all false positives marked as such, copy the value of OKRex match and paste it into OKRex hold. Once that has been done, dupOK can be cleared.